It's your girl Barbie J, and we're discussing Season 7, Episode 12 of the Haves and the Have-Nots. Did you see it? Because if you didn't, I'm going to help you right now. I'm going to give you all the details. But I'm going to say at the beginning, they don't even mention the hotel in this so far. This is the second episode. They haven't mentioned that hotel because there's so much new stuff going on. He brought in new characters. I know he killed off Erica last year, but he might have to kill off somebody else. And not for nothing, I think he gonna kill off the guy and the girl that's gonna try to play him, play Veronica. You know, with them, she wearing Veronica's clothes and everything. I said, because too many people after her. So, but let's get started, okay? So this episode starts with Jimmy holding a gun pointed at Jim. And Jimmy is Jim Cryer and Celine, his old maid's son, oldest son. So he's pointing a gun at Jim and telling him, Jim wanted to press a button. He said, you better not push that button for help, you know. And he's like looking at him and he's like, what do you want? What do you want? Get out of here. Oh, God. You know, he's really, and he's telling him, don't you have any compassion at all? You know, my mother be crying all the time. He said, no, I don't have any compassion. Your mother sucked it all out of my body. And he was like, is that a joke? He said, yeah, it's a sexual joke. And I'm sitting there going, why would you say a sexual joke to your son? That wasn't even funny. That was disgusting to say that, you know? And he was like, I want to know how you met my mother. How you meet my mother? How'd you meet her? And he's telling him, oh, I met her. She was my maid. So she was your maid? He said, well, wasn't you married? He said, unfortunately. I said, he's still an ass. You know, unfortunately, he was married. He's like, did you love my mother? He said, yeah, I'm love. He said, no, you didn't. You just said, he said, no, I loved your mother. Your mother was a beautiful woman. Was. Then he got two hands on it. He said, was. He said, honey, son, my name is Jimmy. It's not son. He was like, he said, could you not point that at me? You know, your hands are shaking and stuff. And he was like, how does it feel to have two sons who want you dead? He said, well, it doesn't feel good. And he was like, he made Jim repeat that, Jimmy, you're my namesake and you're my son. And Jim was repeating everything and he was so scared. And he's like, what is your problem? And he's like, Jim's like, I'm sorry. He kept apologizing. I'm sorry. He said, that's who I am. I only care about myself. He said, I only care about myself. I'm a sociopath. What can I say? And the son is just so through with him, and he throws the gun at him and stuff. And then Jim picks up the gun and tries to point it at the guy and said, I should shoot you myself. And then he looks at the gun and realizes it's a fake gun, it's plastic and stuff. He said, get the hell out of my room. Get the hell out, take the trash with you and stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'll get the hell out of your room. He said, and maybe he said, got a toy gun. He said, yeah, maybe I'll come back with Wyatt's gun next time. And he's like, God, get the hell out of here. You know, and he throws him out. And then he starts laughing after the guy is gone. And he's like, this kid got some balls coming in here like that. He said he may be my son after all. And I'm like, after all? He definitely is your son. He's your son. But you know he's an idiot. And then they show Catherine in the prison and she's just, God. She's being annoying. Two inmates getting into a fight because one of them is like, look, I want to go to sleep. And the other one is like, look, have some compassion and stuff. And they arguing and stuff. And all of a sudden you hear it. Mama Rose's voice. I'm like, Mama Rose was right in the next cell next to Catherine, and she offered to help her, and Catherine never turned around and looked. She didn't know who it was, but she's so busy being nasty. She decided to be nasty, and she was like, I don't need your help. I don't want your help and stuff. And it was just all this attitude. I'm Catherine Cryer. Yeah, guard and stuff. Mama Rose went, Officer such and such, and he came running in, and she's like, God, can you, and Catherine's like, God, can you, he said, shut up. He told her to shut up. He wouldn't even answer a question, and he's like, shut up, and she's like, but I want to know about my son. And Mama Rose started telling him, yes, Mama Rose, he said, you need anything? And Catherine's face, if you could see her face when he said, Mama Rose, she's like, oh, shoot. And she turned, and Mama Rose is sitting there. in a thing, you know, because first of all, Catherine was doing all this noise and stuff, and Mama Rose, when you heard her voice, she goes, "You never been in jail before? You never been in jail before?" She's like, "Do I look like I've been in jail before?" You know, all this attitude. And she's like, "I don't know." She said, you sitting there with an orange on like everybody else. And she turns around and looked at her and said, "Why you don't have orange?" He said, or something like that. And she said, "Because I told him it wasn't my color." I was like, that's a good one. It didn't go with her complexion. It's not her color. But when he said Mama Rose, she said, "You coming here running to that bitch?" And he was like, I said, "Oh no." And he said, "Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth." And she didn't know. That's when she found out it was Mama Rose. He said, "Mama Rose, you need something?" And so she apologized. Catherine turned around when the guard left and apologized and said there was no, you know, no excuse. I didn't know who you were. And Mama Rose said, "Did it matter? Did it really matter?" And she was right. It shouldn't have mattered who I was. Somebody was being kind to her. They weren't being nasty to her. So she's getting mad at everybody around her because of the situation, but, you know, and then I think she did ask for help. She did ask for help, and Mama Rose was like, "No." Because she said, "Your boy," she said, "I know who you are." She said, "Oh," Catherine said, "Oh, I believe you know my husband." She said, "I'm Catherine Cryer. I believe you know my husband." She said, "I know who you are, and that was your son, Wyatt." She said, "Nice, I know your husband, and I effed him too." She said, "I him too." She did. And I'm like, oh my God. Y'all tell me down in the comments, do y'all think Catherine was rude? I think she was really, really rude. I think, I need to hear from y'all and let me know, what do y'all think was going on? And what do you think about this thing with Oliver and all of them? I need to know what's happening. And I need to hear from everybody. But anyway, the officer, you know, he left. And then Mama Rose decided to show her power. Because Catherine, even though she apologized and stuff, Mama Rose said no, she wouldn't help her. And she also said, your son stabbed my family. And Catherine's like, she said, "You think I didn't know that?" No, Mama Rose said, "You think I didn't know that your son?" She's like, Catherine's like, I thought we took care of that." Well, I guess not. And that's what I think one of Mitch's lies that's going to come up. Because Mitch did that whole thing to get Benny out of trouble. The blacks, as his family calls them. He did that to get, and he got money out of Cryer to get Benny out of trouble. And I think all that stuff going to come out in this season. I really do. So when Mama Rose was flexing, she said, "You know what? It's too noisy in here." All of a sudden, all the inmates, shh, it got quiet. Then she goes, "It's too bright in here." And the guards lowered the lights and stuff. And Catherine was like, oh, snap. You know, it was like, she yelling, "I'm Catherine Cryer." That don't mean a damn thing when Mama Rose is there. Anyway, so then they go back to Wyatt. Wyatt's in the hospital bed, and he's being a pain in the butt, of course. And the nurse is like, "It was just a flesh wound. You didn't really do no damage," and blah, blah, blah. And then she left, and the guard went with her to get a coffee or something. And when he left, Jimmy went in there to see Wyatt. I said, how is it that you can find the rooms of all these people? How is it that they know which rooms everybody's in? Unless his mother told him. But Wyatt just got there. I don't know how Jimmy found Wyatt, but he did. And he was able to go in the room. And he talked to him. And he said, "You don't remember me?" He said, "I'm your brother." He said, "Oh, the half-breed." He said, "You just like your damn father." It's just like, why can't they be nice? Why are they so nasty to everyone? Or is it because they Latin? And he said, he said, "You got everything. Your father gave you everything and you pissed it all away." And he was like, "Oh, please." He said, "I'm privileged. It's something you will never know about." And he was like, oh my God. It was just back and forth. And he said, "You know what? I'm glad Jim wasn't in my life, because then I would have ended up probably like you." And I was like, oh, that was a dig. Wasn't that a dig? Oh, he said, "I would end up like you." he said, oh, please, you wish, or something like that, and you never know, or whatever. You know, Wyatt was being just plain old Wyatt. And he said, but I have something that you never have. He said, I got love from a mother, or something like that. Catherine thought she was a good mother. You know, so I don't know, but at least I guess he's basically saying he got loved a lot. So anyway, then it goes back to Jeffrey and Madison in bed, and Jeffrey's feeling real good. He's dancing all over the bed and stuff like that, and he want to do some, you know, he did a split in the bed. I was like, oh, honey, stop playing. Jeffrey did that split. Was like, you know, he got the big old thighs. Jeffrey got big thighs. And the guy was, you know, Madison was enjoying all of it. And then he was saying he got to go. And Jeffrey was talking about, no, let's go and do another round at my mother's house, in front of my mother's house. And Madison was like, let's not poke the bear. Let's leave her alone, you know, and stuff. So he was leaving, getting dressed. And then, you know, he saw that Jeffrey had a hard on. He had a hard on, and he was like, hello, I need to... Hello, he want to go around. He said, Dad, you want to go again? That's going to be 3 rounds. I was like, oh, excuse me. So he put on his stuff, and then Jeffrey grabbed him and threw him on the bed. So they about to do round 3. Then they get to Veronica's new maid and her boyfriend. They're at the apartment, and he said, she wants you to wear those clothes. He said, that don't sound right. She said, I don't care. I'm going to wear them because I like them and stuff, you know. And he said, I don't know, but let's ask Derek when he gets there and stuff. And I was like, Derek. I said, I know they ain't talking about that Derek. I know they ain't talking about Hannah's Derek. I know they ain't talking about Candace's dad and Derek. And sure enough, who comes walking in the door? Derek. I said, oh my God. And he was like, what's up? And he was like, yo, man, you really down with us to help us do this? He said, I thought you was out of the game. He said, nah, I'm in the game. He said, nah, she done dragged me back in it. So I'm in it. I'm in it for this, for now, and I'm going to get this done. I said, wait a minute. Wasn't he acting like he was Mr. Christian man and understanding and clean with Hannah? Meanwhile, he trying to get Hannah in bed. He ain't nothing but a schemer his damn self then. Now we seeing where Candace get it from. They showing us where Candace get that scheming from. Derek was in that stuff. It's a doggone shame. This gonna be some season when this stuff come out. And so Derek told the guy that his girlfriend Laurel, I think her name was Laurel, she should be careful because if she gave him the clothes to wear, she got some kind of agenda. There's always an agenda with her. He said, I'm telling you, be careful. He said, nah, we got this. You know how the young ones are. We got this. He said, okay, see y'all, bye. Yeah, I was like, oh Lord. So now Marty meets with those 2 accountants, and they're sitting there going, the maid. She gave it to the maid this, and they were like, she doesn't know anything. This is ridiculous. We're going to a judge. She's losing her mind. She's incompetent. They was like, oh, they were saying all kinds of things about Catherine. She's unstable. How she gonna get power attorney to her maid? Blah, 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 blah. And then they started thinking about another time when this happened. Whatever. All I know is Marty told them, whatever y'all thinking or planning, don't do it. He said, don't do it. Whatever it is, Kate will not respond in kind. She will not respond in kind. And so they go back to the restaurant and they continue to plan and they scheming and figure out what they're going to do, how they're going to get this money. And they said, what we'll do is we'll just like steal the money, blame it on the maid. They'll blame it on her. If anything goes wrong or any money's missing, they will blame it on Hannah. And that's how that goes. So, and then Veronica. We're back to Veronica and Rodell. This is when she got him, and she told him to get out of her bed. They show him going, he think he doing something. And she's sitting there like, eyes rolling up in her head. She like, whatever. This dude ain't doing nothing. And she was like, just get out of here. Get off of me. Get off. She pushed him off. He said, what the hell's wrong with you? And she's like, man, get out. And she started insulting him, like big time insulting him. Like, how is that thing even getting wet? Why is it wet before it even gets to me? You know, I was like, oh my God. She said, don't you, anybody in your generation know how to please a woman? She said, God damn it. She said, he was like, what are you talking about? And he was trying to fight back with her. She was like, you coming here with that little pen She said, I got a bunch of pens. I don't need no more damn pens. She said, at least if I wanted a pen, I would have got brought two. I said she called his penis a pen. She's cold. She's so cold. I'm sorry, Veronica's cold-blooded. She called his penis a pen. I couldn't take it. I thought that was so funny. I was like, oh my God, I was rolling on the floor. And he said, you gonna get yours one day. He said, bitch. He was like, someone gonna take you out one day. He said, you better hope they get to you before I do. She said, get the hell out of here, bitch. Get the hell out of my house. A lot of swearing in these seasons. I'm telling you, everybody was cursing. Anyway, then they go to, David is coming home. He gives the keys to the security in front of his house. And the security said, there's a young lady waiting for you. The young lady who's waiting for him is a friend of Erica's. And the young lady is like dancing. I mean, she's standing there posing. And she tells him, Erica wanted me to give you this video. He felt some kind of way because it was midnight. And the fact that the girl, it was midnight. And the girl said she used to work for Candace and stuff. And he called her a hoe. You a hoe too and all this stuff. She said, yeah, and all this. But she said she needs to show him that. And she showed him the video. He wouldn't watch the whole thing. He got upset. And the video was saying how much she loved him. And she fell in love. And it started one way, but she fell in love. And she wanted to tell him so many times. But she just couldn't find the right time or didn't get to do it. But, you know, if this happened, basically, if you're looking at this video, that means something happened to me. So, you know, David went into the house. He had nothing to do with that. And told her to go home. He didn't just get away and go, whatever. But she asked, what was 1218? Why did she say 1218? And he never answered her. So then they show Oliver in the car with the kidnapper, and the kidnapper gave him some coke or whatever. So we know now that Oliver had a drug problem. But then Oliver kept saying that, you know, his daddy's plane. He got there because his daddy's plane. And he's, you know, daddy got a plane. And he said, does your daddy know? The kidnapper said, did the daddy know that I use the plane? And he said, daddy only cares if I'm happy. And I'm like, who is his daddy? Who's going to be his daddy at the end? If y'all have an idea, talk to me, people. Who you think going to be his daddy? Oh, I don't know who it is. And he was like, his daddy's rich, he said. And all his daddy cares about is humiliating the president-elect, who is Charles. So his daddy wants to humiliate him, and then he wants to run for president. He said, your daddy don't know anything about politics. That's what the kidnapper said. How he gonna run for president? And he said, in this country, you don't have to. In this country, you don't have to know about politics to be a president. Dig on Trump. That was who the fool in the White House now. That's who that's all about. And so he asked the kidnapper about what he got to do for Jim have anything to do with Candace. And I'm saying, why are they asking a question that was already answered earlier when he asked him something, and he told him it's for Veronica. It's about Veronica. So the kidnapper said, no, it don't have nothing to do with Candace. Then you see David looking out, peeking out his door window and by the curtain, and we're like, what is going on? The girl who was Erica's friend, who came to show him the video, she's in the fountain in front of his house in her bra and panties. It was a nice set too. She had a nice body in the water, throwing it all over her head, swinging her hair, and the security is trying to get her to leave and everything, and she's just all into it. And you see, this is what happens when you tell your friends that you have a good man and he good in bed or whatever, because then they want him. She was on her knees begging, saying, I'll do anything for you. You know, I'll quit being a hoe for you. You know, because see, she shouldn't have never told us, because we all want you now. But anyway, she's doing all of this, throwing herself around, in the water, having her good time, splashing and stuff, and trying to entice David, I guess. And Madison comes down the steps. And he's saying, hey, Mr., you know, Harrington. And he's like, hey, Madison. But he's still looking out the window at the girl. And he's trying to talk to David. You see David's looking out the window. So he said, Mr. Harrington, you know you could turn around and look at me. And you always think it's about him. That daggone Madison, I don't know what his issue is, but something ain't right with him, with me. For me, I just don't see it. Do he want to get to know Jeffrey or not? Because everything with him is sex. Sex. You got to look at his body because he's sexy and it's all about him and his body. And you have to be open to who he is and stuff. Not when you're in other people's houses. You have to respect other people's houses. And you don't say people got to get over and all this stuff when Jeffrey just got out of the closet 5 minutes ago. You know, come on. So something about him, he's kind of like Justin, but in a different way. He's not as crazy as Justin. But I think Madison got his own little thing going on, you know, because he's not understanding the two sides of it. Somebody new coming out and their parents getting into it. You know what I'm saying. But anyway, so he sees Mr. Harrington looking out there. And David turns around and talks to him. Yes, Madison. Yes, okay. So then he said, okay, have a good night. And he goes out. And then before he closes the door, he comes back. Mr. Harrington, do you know there's a girl in your fountain? What you think he freaking out the door looking at? Tyler, Parrot, why did you put that line in there? Because that wasn't a good line. You see he's looking out the door. That's what he was looking at. And then Madison gets out there and all of a sudden he turns into this like flaming gay. Work it, bitch. Work it. He's yelling as he gets in his car. I'm like, since when you become that? 1 minute you tough, look like you a sumo wrestler gonna beat up Justin. Next minute you the nurse, super nurse, and you sweet as thing. Now you like flaming. And not that I have a problem with that, but I'm trying to understand that all these sides. That's what I'm saying. There's something with that doggone Madison. There's something with him. Anyway, moving on to the next thing. And so they changed to Benny. Now Benny is at home. Benny gets home because he had to leave the bar because they, you know, she had her mama carried out of there. Ooh, she cold-blooded. And Benny is asking Veronica. He's digging online and he sees that Veronica was his attorney. So he calls and asks for the guy, for Derek's phone number, address. And he want to go to his house. And so she gives an address. He said, that's your address. She said, yeah, I'm horny. Come over. He was like, I ain't got time for you, Veronica. She said, come on over. That's the only way you gonna get that address. I was like, oh, snap. She was not playing. So that was that. And the last thing what they did was, I was making sure I didn't miss anything on my notes. The last thing was the Malones. They show up to the precinct. Oh my God, they show up to the precinct and he said, where's my mother? He said, who's your mother? Where's my mother? Who's your mother? Rose Malone. The cop is like looking like this. And he's a young white guy. He's young and he's like, who's the person who arrested her? Who arrested her? He's like, and there's like 5, 6 guys. He said, I arrested her. And he tried to be strong. He's like, I arrested her. She was drunk. She was intoxicated and she was driving and she shouldn't be, and she has to go to jail and and they were like, are you freaking kidding me? Do you know who we are? Do you know who we are? You know, he's like, get my mother out of jail right now. He said she's gonna stay in there overnight and when she see the judge in the morning she can go and get it. And he said, what? Excuse me. He said, what? He was like, are you for real with this? He said, y'all need to go home. You get in the morning, y'all go home. And they were like, we ain't going nowhere. He said, y'all go home. And if you don't leave, I'll have you arrested too. They was like, oh, snap. They said, okay. They turn around and act like they walking out. You see, he said something to his boy. His boy went over to the light, blocked the camera with his arm. And he came over there and said, what did you tell me to do? He said, I told you to go home. Pop! He shot him right in the head. I said, oh, they cold-blooded. They shot him right in the head and didn't even blink. Didn't blink one time. That was some 2 episodes. I'm like, this is crazy. So I am dying to see next week because they were showing some scenes. There's so many unanswered questions. who is Oliver's father. What's gonna happen between Catherine and Rose Malone? What's the deal with Justin and his brothers? You know, who else? What's gonna happen to Veronica? She making so many enemies. I'm just like, what is happening? And it looks like Wyatt in the coming attraction. Wyatt escapes out of the hospital and is running. I don't know what's happening, but and what's gonna happen with Hannah as well? Hannah and then Derek getting back into the game. It's this food. They said this season gonna blow our minds. So talk back to me, y'all. Let me know how you feeling, what you thinking, so we could chat. Okay? It's your girl Barbie J. Peace.